What's good, everybody? Welcome to another exciting edition of the Black and Gold Hour podcast, a podcast where we talk New Orleans Saints. And we have a New Orleans Saints game tomorrow at 4:30, and it's in Jacksonville. It's slated to be a New Orleans Saints home game, but due to Hurricane Ida and its devastation, it had to be moved to Jacksonville, Florida. First and foremost, I just want to send prayers and blessings and loves to people in the Gulf South who've been affected. I pray that they, during these challenging times, find one thing to just be positive about, and we continue to help them in some resources as well. And there is one thing they can be positive about. Tomorrow, the New Orleans Saints play the Green Bay Packers for that rematch game from last year's Green Bay Packers game where Aaron Rodgers got the victory. But this year, there's a new Saints team, a new Saints look, and a new quarterback under center for the New Orleans Saints. And it's a new era, and we're really excited. And it's a lot to talk about. It's a lot of excitement going on and a lot of people talking about tomorrow's game. So here to talk Saints football with me, I have someone who's been on the show before. He's a good friend. He's a good guy, and he talks New Orleans Saints football for the Saints News Network. I have writer Bob Rose. How are you today, man?
Merv, I'm real good. Real good. I hope you and your family are doing well. And it's such an honor to join you. Been too long. I know you put out a great show. Listen, I know I'd like to echo your prayers for everybody in the Gulf Coast region and everybody affected by Hurricane Ida. And I'd like to piggyback too. Today, as most of you know, is the 20th anniversary of the attacks on 9/11. Most of us remember where we were or what we were doing, if you're old enough to remember. And my thoughts and prayers go out to anybody who was affected or anybody's families who were affected by that tragedy as well.
Yeah, and I definitely echo that sentiment as well. But let's kind of talk. Let's transition to football. Football is back. I mean, we had football last season, but the fans were in the building for Thursday night's game in Tampa Bay. Now, we didn't want to see them get that ring and have that first game of the season going on, especially since we beat them twice last season. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys played, and what was a great start to the NFL season. Dak Prescott looked really good. But I want to ask you, if you watched the game, how did you feel seeing fans back in the stands? What did it feel like for you, Bob?
Oh, man, it was terrific. To not hear artificial crowd noise. Let's face facts as fans, and I know several players feel the same way. This offseason feels like it's been about a year and a half. Because even though, as you mentioned, they did play football last year, it never had that same feel. And I know for a fact that many players feel the same way. So it's good to get back to some sense of normalcy. And hopefully that can continue and remain so throughout the regular season and the playoffs and Super Bowl.
Right. And I talked about this last time on my show. I've tell everybody, I've gone back and watched old games where fans are in the building just to get that feeling, just to get that excitement back. I mean, we love Saints football, but it was definitely different last season, especially in the Superdome with such a limited capacity crowd at times. But it felt good. It really felt good watching that Thursday game. And we kind of talked about it on Twitter. There was a questionable call in that game, but I want to ask you about the NFC South, our rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What did you see from them? And what do you think of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers headed into this season?
First of all, I understand why they are considered the team to beat, not only in the NFC South, but they are several people's favorites to repeat as NFC champions, if not Super Bowl champions. This is going to be a strong unit all year long. I mean, of course, you got TB12 and his buddies wearing black and white stripes. That's always going to be tough. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are no slouch. They're loaded at wide receiver and tight end. They have an embarrassment of riches at pass catcher. Strong offensive line, extremely strong but thin front seven on defense. I think they have some players in that secondary, but they're relatively thin as well. Tampa Bay is going to be a strong team this year.
Right. And I'm looking at their offense. You got Chris Godwin, you got Mike Evans, you got AB, who will probably matched up with second third and slot corners, and that's dangerous for anybody. And the defense was kind of, had some struggles against Dallas, but I think that's a unit that's gonna, develop as the season goes on, like we saw last season. But the New Orleans Saints, that's what we're here to talk about today. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're definitely a contender in the NFC, but we also believe that about our New Orleans Saints. And we got to start with the most important topic of the New Orleans Saints offseason, and that's quarterback. So we have Jameis Winston in his first start. He won fans over throughout the course of the offseason, and then in that game against the Jaguars, with him and Marquez Callaway putting on the show, I want to ask you, what can you expect from Jameis Winston at the start of the first game of the season tomorrow and as we head into the season?
The New Orleans Saints had a quarterback change? I hadn't heard that. Listen, I think Jameis Winston is going to do just fine in this New Orleans offense. There are a couple things to watch. Obviously, everybody always talks about how well he's going to be able to take care of the ball, and that's certainly going to be a question mark. But the things I'm going to be watching are offensive rhythm, and especially in the 2-minute drills. I think the offense Sean Payton's offense is going to stress balance early on, not necessarily to protect Jameis Winston. That's just where the strength of this offense lies. They are going to take a few shots down the field, make no mistake about it. But other than Callaway, who I agree with you had a tremendous preseason, and I've been high on Marquez Callaway for a while, they don't really have any proven pass catchers other than Alvin Kamara outside of those two. So you need Jameis Winston and Sean Payton need another reliable target to step up. Is it going to be Adam Troutman, who is going to be a go this week? Is it going to be Juwan Johnson, Deontay Harris? I mean, any one of them, but they need somebody. Like I said, I think Jameis is going to do just fine, but there is going to have to be a comfort level established between Winston, Sean Payton, and Winston. Between Breeze and Payton for the last 15 years, you had probably the closest and arguably the most successful quarterback coach duo of all time. Sean could trust Drew in certain situations. Drew could trust Sean that he would give him a game plan that curtailed to his strengths. Now, I think Sean Payton is still going to do that with Jameis Winston. But when you get into those 2-minute situations or you get behind by a couple scores, Payton had the utmost confidence and trust in Breeze to sort of turn over the offense in the audible system to him. I don't think he's going to have that with Jameis Winston early on anyway. Jameis is going to have to earn that trust. So the Saints offense is going to be a little bit robotic. Therefore, it would not play into the Saints' strengths to get into a shootout like we saw with New Orleans and Green Bay last September, because that's just asking for trouble. You don't have Michael Thomas, you don't have Will Lutz, and you have a quarterback who has been prone to poor decisions and turnovers throughout his career. So the Saints need to keep it a little bit closer to the vest. They're never going to be a 3 yards in a cloud of dust team under Sean Payton. Right. But like I said, the passing offense is going to be a little bit more robotic, at least early on, until Payton and Winston establish a little bit harder rapport.
Right. And you have Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball, and they're the NFC contender as well. They're expected to have one of the better offenses this upcoming season. And the best way to slow down that offense is to keep them off the field, have a strong defense and some strong playmakers in the running game. And the New Orleans Saints definitely have that with Alvin Kamara and what we like and what we think we like from Tony Jones Jr. And we're definitely excited to see what he does during the regular season with all the news and talk about him over this past week. But I got to ask you about the wide receiver group. Now, the last time I had you on the show, Bob, we kind of talked about Marquez Callaway, and he showed out in the second preseason game against the Jaguars. Now, granted, it was a preseason game, and it was the Jaguars, who aren't predicted to be a great team. But Marquez Callaway is showing us consistency. He's showing us the ability to get open. And I got to ask you, Bob, do you believe Marquez Callaway is the real deal? And who's another option for the New Orleans Saints offense that can open up in the receiving game?
At first, I do believe that Marquez is the real deal, because you pointed out some valid concerns and withdrawal or holdbacks, given his performance against the Jaguars. But remember, Marquez played pretty well for the couple series he was in the game against the Ravens. And this man has gone up against Marshawn Lattimore nearly every single day during training camp practice, and he really shined. Callaway has already built up what looks like to be a strong rapport with Jameis Winston, but he is going to probably get the opponent's top cover man every single week, which in the case of the Green Bay Packers is going to be Jair Alexander, one of the better corners in the National Football League. So, the test for Callaway is he going to be able to continue to consistently get open and separation against guys like that? And B, what you just pointed out about, is there going to be a complementary target that's able to step up? The team is still extremely high on Adam Troutman, who did have a very quiet training camp, but I think Troutman possesses some very intriguing tools as a pass catcher. And if I'm right, and if the team is right, he's going to be a mismatch against a lot of defenses. So look for Troutman, assuming what we're hearing about his health is accurate. Look for Troutman to get some targets this weekend, tomorrow against Green Bay. And another guy, and I make no secret about my love for this man, Deontay Harris. Deontay is, I know he's small, but he's more than just an electric deep threat down the field. He showed me he could be a very capable intermediate route runner. He runs extremely precise routes, and the man is as dangerous as anybody with the ball in his hands in the open field. So they're going to try to scheme to get Deontay the ball in different ways, different shapes, different forms. Obviously, you have Kamara not only coming out of the backfield, but you could split AK-41 into the slot or even out wide as a receiver. And as long as Tony Jones can prove that he could be a capable runner between the tackles, that gives them more freedom to move Kamara around the formation. And Alvin had a monster game against Green Bay last season. I guarantee you that's the one player that Green Bay is specifically designing their defensive scheme against. So it's going to be a chess match between the Saints offense and the Green Bay defensive coordinator. Outside of that, Ty Montgomery is a pretty valuable weapon to this offense. We're going to see Ty moved around, and they're going to give him some targets as well. Outside of that, Lil Jordan Humphrey got a lot of snaps in both preseason games. He's not going to threaten any defense down the field, but he did show me some nice physicality. That young man is a battler in the short routes, and Callaway, Harris, and especially Kamara, if they can draw primary coverage, you could see a guy like Ty Montgomery or Lil Jordan Humphrey make some plays in some crucial moments.
Right. And we got a comment here, Bob, from somebody that we know, Brendan Boylan from the Saints News Network as well. And Brendan asked the question, what do you think Kamara's role will be in week 1? And I think you already answered it with, they're going to be scheming against him. So I think Kamara's role is, get him the ball, but he's also going to create those mismatches to allow other players to have an increased role this week. I mean, you already kind of talked about it. We know what Alvin Kamara can do, but Brendan, I definitely think he'll be, a decoy for some of our other players to kind of get the ball, to open up, some space in the zone for Marquez Callaway or Deontay Harris, like you talked about, and Lil Jordan Humphrey to make those crucial catches. So that's what I definitely believe Kamara is going to bring in week 1. But let's kind of talk about the other side of the ball. The New Orleans Saints' biggest question outside of quarterback going into the offseason was cornerback. And just about 10 days ago, we were still like, whoa, what's going on at the cornerback position? Now, the New Orleans Saints did pick up Bradley Roby, and they picked up Desmond Trufant, 2 veteran cornerbacks who are really good at what they do, and they're going to be instant plug-ins for the New Orleans Saints defense. But I got to ask you, what does this defense have to do to be able to limit or even stop Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers offense?
First and foremost, they got to stop the run. And I wrote an article about that yesterday, and I got blasted a little bit for it because I suggested that the biggest key for the New Orleans Saints defense is to stop the run and make Aaron Rodgers beat you. And I know that sounds blasphemous, but I mean, hear me out, Saints fans. I'm not saying that I don't respect Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not saying that the New Orleans Saints don't respect Aaron Rodgers. But Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, much like Sean Payton in Breeze's later years, LaFleur wants to establish balance over featuring his entire offense around Aaron Rodgers. So if the Saints can stop Aaron Jones and shut down that Green Bay rushing attack, that's going to force Rodgers to throw the ball more. But that also allows you to unleash your pass rush. and New Orleans has an extremely deep core of edge rushers going against a reshuffled Green Bay Packers offensive line who is without their all-pro left tackle. You shut down the run, you eliminate the threat of play action as well. That gives your pass rush an opportunity to tee off, and that won't freeze your safeties in the intermediate zones to allow you to potentially get beat deep from behind. Yeah, I realize that that the Saints still have some questions at cornerback, and these players have to prove it onto the field. But the way you beat Aaron Rodgers is to rush him and force him into rushed decisions. Aaron's not going to make a lot of mistakes with the football as far as turning the ball over or intercepting, getting intercepted. But he will take a sack instead of throwing an interception. He will throw the ball out of bounds. So on a key 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8 situation, if you can force Rodgers to whip that ball out of bounds or even take the check down, where you put it in the hands of your solid tackling ability, that gives the Green Bay defense and an entire Saints team the distinct advantage.
Right. And I think forcing them, I agree with you. And I think forcing them into long 3rd downs is key. You give them 3rd and 4 and less, and it's Aaron Rodgers. We're expecting 1st downs. He's going to make something happen. But I think if you can force him and put his ears back, like you were saying, and our defensive line can definitely do that. They're predicted to be, if not the best, one of the best defensive lines in all of football headed into this upcoming season. So if they can force them into 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, or even a 3rd and 8, it could look gravy for the New Orleans Saints defense. But I have a quick question from you for my boy Gabriel Fernando. What's up, man? I want to ask you about the tight ends, Bob. And you kind of talked about it a little bit. We talked about Juwan Johnson and Adam Troutman. Who do you believe in week 1 will have the bigger impact for the New Orleans Saints?
As long as he's healthy, I think it's going to be Troutman. Because he's going to be the tight end that gets the higher snap count. Because he's more physically suited to the position. Juwan Johnson is one heck of a blocker, but as an inline tight end, he's a little bit light at 230. Johnson, they're going to use more as what they call a move tight end, get him in motion, pull him off of the line of scrimmage a little bit as kind of an H-back, and certainly line him up into the slot. You're not going to want to see Juwan Johnson in on many goal line situations. But if the Saints move forward with some 2 tight end formations with Johnson and Troutman, again, you can move Johnson around. You already know that Troutman can come off of has the athleticism to beat linebackers off of the line of scrimmage. And that's where the mismatch lies. There are not going to be a whole lot of linebackers through the league that's going to be able to match Adam Troutman down the seam athletically. And Troutman has extremely good size that gives him a matchup advantage against most safeties that are able to cover him. So if Adam Troutman's, I believe he had an injured ankle. If his ankle is a full go, you're going to see him have the bigger impact for the Saints offense on Sunday. Right.
And we like what Troutman brings to the table. We talked about it last season. We were talking about it on Twitter, the footwork. He's showing all the signs that you want to see in his young career as a tight end. And I definitely want to see what he can do. But we know Juwan Johnson, with his speed and his transition from the wide receiver position, he's going to be a mismatch in himself. Yeah. And I think the New Orleans Saints, if not this year, then in the years coming, we could have a very good tight end duo that fans will be very excited about. But let's kind of stick with the offense. The New Orleans Saints, we always complain about the New Orleans Saints not making the national media. They're not making headlines. And this week they did with Latavius Murray. Now, all NFL teams do this. They cut him right before, he was guaranteed that guaranteed $3 million. So I want to ask you about one of the reasons he was let go. Tony Jones Jr. Do you believe Tony Jones Jr. has what it takes to be a reliable number 2 running back? What did you like about him? And what do you see from the young running back?
Well, and you and I have talked about Tony before. I liked him coming out of Notre Dame last year. I think he can, at least his college tape showed me, he could get a little bit too cute behind the line of scrimmage, try to make one more move than what is necessary. But when he runs with authority, he has good vision and good balance between the tackles. And he has a nice, he doesn't have game-breaking speed, but he has a nice little burst, once he sees that hole and hits it. He reminds me a little bit of a less refined Pierre Thomas. Pierre was a small, and I know those are big shoes, But yeah, you watch the way Tony Jones runs, and you click on some of the past film of Pierre Thomas, you'll see a similar running style. Now, the biggest question I had out of Tony coming out of Notre Dame, was his receiving ability out of the backfield. He showed me a little bit in those 2 preseason games. Again, he didn't get a lot of targets, but he showed me a much smoother ability to slide out of the backfield, get the ball in his hands comfortably, and turn upfield. And as long as he could do that, he gives the Saints another versatile weapon coming out of the backfield. And Tony and Sean Payton pays close attention to this kind of thing. Tony shows the ability to pick up the blitz too, which means that you have a running back that you can feel comfortable putting in on 3rd down situations where you might have to keep him into the backfield as an extra blitz protector. That's something that Mark Ingram early in his career struggled with too.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons why we didn't see Mark get the snap counts that many Saints fans expected him to get until he developed that aspect of his game. Tony showed me that he put in a lot of work this offseason to work on that other stuff. And, like I said, as long as he doesn't get too cute, behind the line of scrimmage, he sees that hole and hits it. Sean Payton has always shown us that he will not hesitate to keep an overlooked and undrafted type of back over a more established veteran. And he said it even prior to the Jacksonville preseason game. That Tony Jones was basically his number 2 going into that game. So what happened with Latavius Murray, it disappoints me because I like Latavius, but he didn't have a very good camp at all. He really struggled in both preseason games. That made him an expendable roster decision because Latavius cannot play special teams, unlike a Dwayne Washington, who they kept over him.
And I think all of us, and I know for myself, it hurt me because it's kind of a double-edged sword because we saw Tony Jones Jr., what he was doing, and for me, he kind of reminded me of a less refined AK. Like when you saw AK in that first preseason game, you just saw the vision, you saw the decision making. He was very, he had no plan behind the line of scrimmage, no dancing behind the line. He made a decision, and he had kind of that speed but he's a bigger guy. So he had that disguised speed. You just see him take off around the corner and he's outrunning linebackers and cornerbacks, and then he could hit you with the boom. So I really like what I see from Tony Jones Jr. But on the other side, I was one of Latavius Murray's biggest fans last season. I was like every game I'm tweeting, get Latavius Murray the ball, because it seemed like every time he got the ball, it would be about 5 or 6 yards. So I already know he's going to do well, especially in the Baltimore Ravens offense with Lamar Jackson. I mean, it was only a matter of time before he got picked up. And I think they were talking about him in Baltimore like an hour after he was, released with the Saints. But I got to transition to, we're talking about players, and it's the first week of a new era for the New Orleans Saints. But the core is still intact. We just got a new quarterback and a new number 2 running back. But I got to ask you, for this week 1 matchup, who are some players that stand out for you, and who needs to have a big game on Sunday?
We already talked about the pass rush, and somebody else other than Marquez stepping up as a pass catcher. You got to look at the cornerback position. I expect Marshawn Lattimore to be matched up on Adams, their top receiver, whenever possible during the course of the day. But with Ken Crawley now on short-term IR, which leaves him out a minimum of 3 weeks, that means Paulson Adebo is probably going to be your starter, and Desmond Trufant is probably going to play more snaps than what they had originally anticipated. Because, as you know, Bradley Roby is not going to be available for the Saints in week 1 because he has to serve 1 more game of the league suspension. So, obviously Rodgers is going to target whoever Lattimore is not covering. So those guys are going to really be under the gun to step up, especially Adebo, the rookie. And I also expect that, again, with Crawley and Roby not being available, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who you and I have talked about before, early in the offseason when we both agreed that Gardner-Johnson is probably going to be used more in a coverage role. That might not be the case as the season progresses. If Trufant and Roby play well and once Crawley gets back, but I think we're going to see Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce, whichever he prefers to call himself. We're going to see him in a lot more man coverage, be it from the slot or even from the outside. So this cornerback unit is going to have to hold up against Aaron Rodgers and a very deep Packers receiving core. I just said a few minutes ago that New Orleans is going to have to stop the run first and foremost to win. But if you put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands, that falls into the category of be careful what you wish for. Yeah, because if you set yourself up for that, you better be able to play.
Right. And that leads me to my two players that I'm watching in tomorrow's game, and that's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We know what, disruptions he can bring for the offense. He'll be in man, and I expect him to bring that energy, bring that life to the Saints' first game of the season, and to give that defense, and I hate saying this word, swagger, that they need to play with. And I think he's going to cause disruptions all over the field. But when I flip to the other side of the ball, I want to see what Tony Jones Jr. can do. And I have a prediction for him, and I'm going to say it on the live right now. I think he's going to give us, and this is just me throwing it out there, at least 50 yards rushing and 1 TD. I really want to see what Tony Jones Jr. can do. And we already know what Alvin Kamara can do. But in this game, I think Alvin Kamara will be more of a decoy. He'll ease him into the season. And then as the season progresses, Alvin Kamara will begin to get his touches, get his numbers, and do what we already know he can do. But I want to ask you, you talked about Paulson Adebo, and I have another question. What do you think, and how do you think Paulson Adebo will fare against the Green Bay Packers wide receiver group?
I like what Adebo brings to the table. I really do. He shows me the abilities of a long-term the top-notch cornerback. And if I'm right, you pair him with Lattimore at any point in time, and I'll take my chances with that cornerback unit. But we've seen many cornerbacks struggle in their rookie years, especially early on. And like I said, when you have Lattimore on the other side, you're going to be tested. I like Adebo. Adebo showed me a lot in the preseason games. Obviously, you ratchet up the intensity once you get to the regular season. But I think he has the skill set and the level mentality and maturity, and that's something that cannot be overstated as a rookie. You keep your maturity and your emotions on a pretty level basis. You're going to be able to have yourself a short memory if you get beat, because it's going to happen. So I expect some inconsistencies from Adebo, but he's going to have, as long as Lattimore holds up in his one-on-one responsibilities, Adebo and anybody else that's going to be at cornerback for the Saints on Sunday, they're going to have some wonderful safety support and Marcus Williams and Malcolm Jenkins over the top. And as long as that deep support holds out, these guys, Adebo and company, are going to be able to sit on the underneath routes and be a little bit more aggressive. It wouldn't surprise me if Paulson Adebo had himself an interception on Sunday.
And he's a Stanford guy, and we know another Stanford guy who was in the league, Richard Sherman, and what he brought to the table. We saw what Paulson Adebo could do. We've seen the one-handed interceptions. We've seen the athleticism, and we know Dennis Allen likes athletic cornerbacks. So I'm excited to see what he can do. But I have one more question from the comments about the wide receiver depth. Now, when Michael Thomas comes back and Marquez Callaway emerges as what we think he will emerge as, do you think the wide receiver depth is enough to carry the Saints into the playoffs?
Yeah, I do. And again, that's a big if, asking Michael Thomas to come back healthy. That's a big if when you're counting on a former undrafted free agent like Marquez Callaway to produce. We've seen positive signs on both of that. I think Deontay, as much as I love Deontay, you don't want him as a number 2 wide receiver all year long, because you need him as a kick returner. Once Thomas comes back, and if Marquez is producing, you drop Deontay down to a 3rd, a 4th wide out. You mix Ty Montgomery and his experience in there, and then you have the physicality of a little Jordan Humphrey. If all those pieces fall into place, and I realize I'm using the word "if" a lot, but if all those pieces fall into place, you have a receiving core that is capable of making plays to not only get you to the playoffs, but in the playoffs themselves. Because you're also talking about a team that has Alvin Kamara, the ultimate chess piece, and a couple of tight end mismatches in Troutman and Juwan Johnson. So you don't need to necessarily have 4 Michael Thomases for your receiving core to be successful. As long as you have a healthy Thomas, and Marquez is with what he's shown us, the electricity of a Deontay Harris, experience of a Ty Montgomery. I really like the potential of this receiving core.
And that question was from my guy Synergy Plays, man. What's up, man? Thank you for showing your support for the show. Who do you believe replaces Tre'Quan Smith? Is it Little Jordan Humphrey? Who was that number 2 wide receiver?
I'm not a big fan of Tre'Quan, as you know, Murph. In my last couple days, my Twitter line has been Whoquan. Because here's the thing, Tre'Quan has made some big plays for the Saints, but he has not been able to do it consistently. I think they can find another receiver to make plays down the field. I think they can find another guy to replace the production. Sean Payton loved Tre'Quan Smith's blocking ability from the position, and that is where Tre'Quan really excelled. But as a receiver, he's had multiple opportunities to secure that number 2 receiving job, and get some meaningful targets alongside Michael Thomas. He's never been able to do it. He's never been able to show that he can get open against complementary coverage, because everybody's top guys are going to be on a Michael Thomas. So Tre'Quan being out of the lineup, I kind of shrug it off and I say, okay, what else is new? Because even when he is in the lineup, he disappears for long stretches. You would like a guy with the athleticism of Tre'Quan Smith in the offense, but he has to make plays. And to me, he's never consistently done that. I will take my chances with a Deontay Harris or a Ty Montgomery, or even if one of the veteran journeymen like Chris Hogan or Kevin White, if either one of them are able to step up and give you a couple meaningful snaps during the course of a ball game, Tre'Quan to me is just an afterthought in this offense.
Right. And Bob, you're on my side, because I haven't really seen the consistent play out of Tre'Quan Smith. When you go online and you talk to Who Dat Nation, they really believe in Tre'Quan Smith, and they believe that this is the year that he'll emerge. But he's had so many opportunities, and we've seen what Marquez Callaway can do in just his short number of games, because he dealt with injury last season. He was instantly able to make an impact. Deontay Harris, he was instantly able to make an impact. And I haven't seen that from Tre'Quan Smith. He hasn't shown consistent ability to create separation from himself and cornerbacks, number 2 cornerbacks, number 3 cornerbacks. So I definitely want to see what he can do this season. But I believe that the Saints, like you said, have enough pieces that even in Tre'Quan's injury, and if he's out, the Saints offense will run just as smooth, if not smoother. So I got to ask you, as we wrap the show, you got to take your Saints bias, your love for the Saints out of it. We see the Saints helmet behind you and everything like that.
All my stuff.
Who wins this game in Jacksonville and why?
Listen, and I make this prediction very shakily. If it were in the Superdome, even with all the questions that the Saints have on both sides of the ball, I'd really love the Saints. But the thing about this team is I realize the distractions that come along with Hurricane Ida, but I love the way the organization that this franchise has shown and being displaced. And I think, to me, these players, there's so much stability and leadership in that locker room, and they have a chip on their shoulder. They want to get behind. They are behind Jameis Winston. They want to prove to the nation that they can win without the almighty Drew Brees. And I don't say that sarcastically. But Brees has left a monumental shadow that not only Jameis Winston has to replace, but this entire team has to replace. And the way last season ended left a bitter taste in this leadership's mouth. I think they're going to come out. It needs to be a lower scoring game than what we saw last year, for the reasons that you and I mentioned before, Merv. But I see the Saints defense being able to make enough stops and the offense being able to make enough plays. I'm going to go with the Saints 27-24.
27-24. And that's a similar score to me, because I had 31-27 Saints. I think the Green Bay Packers, the Saints can get to a quick start, have a dominant first half, I believe the Green Bay Packers will try to rally in the third quarter, but the Saints just hold on to the lead. And the Saints get that 31-27 win. And I believe in Jameis Winston, and I hear it in your voice, and we see it in Who Dat Nation. And I watch ESPN, and no one seems to be on Jameis' side except maybe like a Chris Broussard. He's been very vocal about his support of Jameis Winston this upcoming season. I believe he can do it. He showed us a little bit of what he could do with the Jaguars, but it's not so much about Jameis Winston. It's about the pieces around him. And the core of the New Orleans Saints is an NFC contender, and I think they'll elevate him and elevate his play. And I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow. Man, it just feels so good to have the fans back in the stadium. I was actually about to go to the game. Me and my dad were like, let's go to Jacksonville. No, but we're going to wait to that Washington game, and I'm so excited to see what happens. I'm glad football is back. Thank you all who watched the show live. Kai23 Blue, who that, man? Appreciate you for showing support. I want to thank my guy, Bob, for coming on the show today. Thank you, Bob, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Merv, like I said, it's all my pleasure. I love you. I love your show. I consider you a good friend. And yeah, we definitely got to do this more often. I get my show Bayou Blitz back on track. We're going to have you on there too.
Thank you so much, man. You guys check out Bob Rose's work at the Saints News Network with Sports Illustrated. He's a great writer. He's given us weekly content, if not daily content, and I love his perspective and insight. I appreciate him for coming on, and follow him on Twitter at Bob Rose. Gonna get all the Saints news, get all the jokes, join the family. Man, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share it if you will, man. I really appreciate it. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Who dat?
Oh,